Hi, it's Lipstick Gal. Thanks so much for watching today. Let's rank all the eyeshadows I bought in 2022. I have two giant bins in front of me, and they are chock full of eyeshadow. And I did something interesting last year where I gave myself permission to buy one eyeshadow palette a month. And this year I was like, anything goes. And there are 37. I purchased 37 eyeshadow palettes this year. That's more than one for every other week, which means that's a lot of eyeshadow. So there's a lot that just sat and languished in my collection, and there are some that just instantly rose to the top. This does not include any liquid eyeshadow singles or individual, we'll get into it. Mostly, if I purchased like singles to go into my Sydney Grace collection, I'm not putting them in here, but there were singles that I bought kind of like a palette that are in here. In looking at this, I feel like I spent the bulk of my time and attention on high-end eyeshadow. There are some drugstore items in here, but I just have not had good luck with drugstore eyeshadow formulas. If you know of one that you really love and you really trust and you think is awesome, please let me know in the comment section down below. But I'm just gonna let you know, these are more, you know, even though they might be indie, they are definitely more on the higher end to even luxury price point. All right, so let's just start at number 37. This was the one that when I bought it this year, I had really high hopes. I was in the mood for rosy and blushy eyeshadow tones. This showed up in my worst makeup of the year, and it's this. And as I was pulling everything out, and I had all 37 of them here, and I was organizing them, this one just kept moving farther and farther and farther and farther back in the palette. This is the Snap Shadow from Fenty Beauty. This is number 4. It's the rose one. If you want to know why I don't like it, go watch the worst of 2022. But this is just, no. 37, the one that, you know, when I do a declutter, she's out the door first. This is another one that showed up in the worst of 2022. That's why they're down here at the bottom. These are really like my official bad bin. And I don't know that I'm going to reach for this again now. This is from Essence. This is a drugstore brand. And I've had good, okay. Here's where I tell you I haven't tried a ton of drugstore eyeshadow. I want to try more, but I also want to spend my dollars wisely. And if I think a formula, first of all, is going to be dusty or powdery, no. If it's not going to last all day, no. If there's like a large chunk of the shades in the palette I'm not going to use, no. On top of that, if it's one of those where I just like, am I buying it? Just try it because everyone else is trying it. I'm not that sort of person, but I went to the drugstore and I saw this and it made me stop. This is Hello Berlin. And it's got a really pretty, almost like autumnal, but very neutral, warmish neutral with some of these guys over here. You have a little bit cooler with the greens in here. I thought this was going to be great. This was, if I never saw this again, I wouldn't cry. And some of those darker greens kind of sat and creased in my lid area. If I used eyeshadow primer, they did a little bit better, but they still faded by the end of the day. And I know you're talking to the screen right now saying you should always wear an eyeshadow primer. Yeah, I know. I'm lazy, I don't. So this one can be salvaged with eyeshadow primer. You get more longevity. I still found it to be a little bit creasy. I still found it to fade in intensity, and I don't want to work that hard. At number 35 and 34 are two palettes that the quality is really good, but the color story, what was I thinking? I don't wear these shades. And so it's not that the formula is bad or that the brand is bad. It's just, you know, that whole line, know thyself. I should have known myself better. All right, so here we go. This is the Pasty from Petitfour. She's pretty. She's got a lot of like warm neutrals in here. I've got these other places, but it's this blue right here. I wore it once for the video. I wore it once or twice after trying to get myself out of my comfort zone, and that's just not who I am. So I could very easily see myself taking these guys out or rearranging this to make it work a little bit more, but I should not have purchased this eyeshadow with the blue in it. And then the next one is, again, another Petitfour from Viseart. I ended up buying 7 Petitfours this year, and this one here, it looks like it'd be perfect for me because it's very warm and it's neutral, but it's very peach. Very peach. And I have to be like in the, what year did the Sweet Peach from Too Faced come out? Like in a Too Faced Sweet Peach kind of mode to work. And this one right here is not even really peach. It's almost on me. It's almost like an electric orange. It's definitely a mood, and I'm not always in the mood for this. This is another one where I could take these guys out and put them somewhere, but even this one here, it looks kind of like an orange creamsicle. This one's pretty, but I don't know. I could take my favorite shades out of both of these palettes, or the ones I know I would use again, and incorporate them with other shades because, look, they're removable. That's the brilliant thing about these. That's their saving grace, but as a palette, these were both not for me. Number 33 is a little controversial because some people are gonna love this. And it's just because these are not the shades that I wear. So it's not that the formula is bad. It's just that I never reached for this palette. Now, here's the other thing that's good to know is that I didn't buy this and choose this palette. This came in my Beautylicious Lucky bag, and I'm talking about the Natasha Denona Zendo palette. So this is one of the midi-size palettes. It's actually really pretty. And if I kind of like cover up these blues right here, the rest of this palette is really gorgeous. These are the shades that I instantly think of, that and kind of like this really bricky terracotta red. I struggle with this color story, and I think it's because I have fair skin and I like to wear, you know, shades. Right, I'm very much in a cool eyeshadow zone right now, but I'm also liking things that don't get too dark. This is very light to mid-toned, and these are very saturated colors. The formulas are nice. Like the Viseart, you can use a pin to push these out, to build your own palette, to redesign things differently, to, you know, organize them in a different way. I really like that. So this has potential where I could pull 1 or 2 or 4 shades out of here and create a whole nother like look. But as a palette, I just did not reach for this year. Not bad, just not for me. Number 32 is the first palette I tried from this brand ever. And it looked like it would be perfect, right up my alley. Now, normally I don't like palettes that have too many shades. I like a smaller size palette, but this really called to me because it had everything designed in quads. And I'm talking about the Give Me Glow 2 Moods. I actually really like this palette. Every time I open it up, I'm super excited about it. First of all, these pressed pigments here, these 4 super shiny shades, they call to me. I'm like a bird looking for shiny things to line my nest. These are the shadows I'm going for. Love these. And I have used this quad here a lot, and I have used this quad here a lot. The problem I have is that maybe I'm a monster. Maybe I go in like a, you know, 800-pound gorilla, and I get so much product in my brushes, I get fallout, like a lot of fallout. Not just with the really glittery pressed pigment shades, but also with the mattes. And I always do my face first and then my eyes. I've learned that with Give Me Glow, I can't. And I don't know whether it's the type of brushes I'm using. I don't know if it's the amount of pressure that I'm using. I don't know if I'm a crazy person, but I really like how easily and softly the mattes blend, but I end up with a lot of fallout. And I really love the intensity of these guys. Like, I mean, look at that. I want to eat them. They look delicious. But I end up with sparkle. The other thing I'll tell you is these more foiled metallic pressed pigments on my more mature eyelids. If I don't get just the perfect like layer, I pick them up with my finger, I lay them down by swiping them on. And if I get too much in a certain portion of my lid, it brings out the texture. I find that taking kind of like a fluffy brush like this and going over it can actually help get rid of that. But then again, more fallout and really sparkly fallout underneath my eyes. This is not a bad palette. I actually really like this palette. I don't reach for it because it's a high maintenance palette. I really like this quad right here, but they lean a little purple for my everyday comfort, and these are definitely more on the peachy side. And again, I would feel like I would need to be in like a whatever the year the Sweet Peach came out from Too Faced to like want to reach for these. So this is the one that I reach for the least. I live in these two when I use it, but it kind of sits there and doesn't get as much love as it should. Number 31 is another case of I should have known myself. And it's Sydney Grace Sweet Indulgence. Now, I love the formula of every single shadow in here. And I'll tell you, these mattes in the middle, I have used these guys the most. But these metallics on the side, I just haven't reached for. I can see there's like a lot of like little fallout crumbles here. And that's because when I put my fingers in them to swatch them, I look at them and go, yep, nope, those are not my colors. But what I should do is remove all of the mattes in here and put them in with the rest of my Sydney Grace singles and make this palette useful to me. But this was great quality, just a case of, yeah, I don't wear those shades. Number 30 is not actually a pre-made palette. Now this is where I kind of run into, I said I wasn't gonna put singles in here, but I kind of think of this as like special toppers, and I always keep them together. I never take them out of here. And I put them in like my daily makeup drawer when I want to use them for the month. And these are the stained glass shades from Clionadh. I will link the video for you here as well as the description bar down below where I swatch these. These are so pretty because right here they look like nothing special. They look like a bunch of flaky white shades. But they have the most beautiful, interesting shine. They have no base color to them, but they go green, they go a little bit orange, purple, blue. They're so beautiful. But like the ones from Give Me Glow, I have to do my eyes first, especially when I reach for this one right here. This is like the ultimate, like, commits all the sins. But when you get it on the skin, it's just so pretty. It's almost like the most ethereal, almost like fairy lights, but for your eyes. And I really like it. The other thing that these eyeshadows do is that they do add texture to my lids. So I have to use these judiciously, less than I think I need. And so I think of this palette of Clionadh singles, even though they're really pretty and really lovely, they're high maintenance. That's why they're at number 30, kind of low to the bin here. Number 29 is a palette that I didn't intentionally go out and purchase. It came as part of a set. And it's this. This is the holiday palette from Lancome that comes in their purchase with purchase. You spend a certain amount of, I think it was $45 on something, and then you can purchase this whole set that had skincare, a bag, mascara, lip products, and this palette that also includes face products. But I really kind of think of it mostly as like the eyeshadows because there's 10 really usable eyeshadow shades in here. All right, so this was 2022's palette. The formulas are nice. They last really well. They're great for me for a work day, for a day when I want to have kind of like a soft look that doesn't get too dark or too intense. I do have the ability to kind of deepen things up. I never use this shade. It's kind of a weird shade that has like, it's black. It looks brown in the pan, but it's basically a black base with sparkly glitter. I don't like that, but I use everything else and I feel like it's a nice palette, but it doesn't actually, like, there's nothing about the formula and there's nothing about the colors that are like calling to me. It's not bad. It's just not my favorite. And I think that if this was a standalone palette, I would never have purchased this for myself. Is it good? Yeah. Performs pretty nice. And I have used it, but not my fave. Number 28 is a palette that I picked up when I was searching for drugstore eyeshadow palettes, and it's from JCat. This is one of their Tri Elements 15 eyeshadow palette. This is their Noche palette. It's from their Dia y Noche. They have a duo. The Dia one was out of stock. This was the only one there. And I remember hearing Andrea Mattiliano talk about how much she loved the fact that you get 3 different finishes. You get matte, you get these really kind of crunchy and beautiful shimmery shadows, and then something a little bit more satin. And I do really like the satin shades in here. They're super pretty. And some of these like more textured shadows, they're really, really pretty, but there's fallout. The other thing I noticed with these guys, I feel, and maybe it's technique and maybe it's the brushes that I'm using. And remember, I don't wear an eyeshadow primer most days. I just can't be bothered. I know I should. Yell at me in the comments if you want. I almost never do. These do best with an eyeshadow primer, but the thing that I notice is the eyeshadow primer that I have that I really kind of trust is the Milani eyeshadow primer. I like it. It's like the one that lives here on my desk. When I use that with this, these mattes especially will stick down in one area and they'll get really bold there. And then as I try and blend it, they blend outside. The one place I placed my brush down instantly has the most pigment. And then as I'm trying to blend, it doesn't diffuse. I always have that one spot. So I like the way these look best when I don't use primer, because they have, especially the mattes have that, like they stick in one spot and then I'm trying to blend and they'll blend, but you'll always see like the edge, like the delineated line of this is where you first touch down, and that mark will be there all day. I will blend them and then I will put something like this like tapped over that area, and it's really nice and easy. These are really pretty. I don't always use this shade or these two, but it's nice. Is it the best eyeshadow formula I've ever tried? No. It's really affordable, but it's not one of those that I would say you need to run out and grab. And maybe I haven't tried it enough, but I tried it for like almost 2 weeks straight, and it was just okay. And I'm not at the place where I want to recommend to you something that was just okay. Number 27 kind of surprised me because I was super excited about this palette, really, really excited, and I just found that I didn't use it as much as I thought I was. I was like, I'm gonna use it all the time. It's super easy. It's the Wayne Goss Smoky Quartz. All right, look at this palette. I know. This should be the palette of my dreams. The one thing that I noticed, and maybe it's all up here, is that I feel like out of all of Wayne's palettes that I have, and I have 4 of them, I don't have all of them, but I have 4 of them. The Pearl palette is my favorite and my most reached for. After that, it's the Tourmaline, and then this one. And I feel like this one would be, since I'm in a cool eyeshadow moment, it has like all of these beautiful, really gorgeous mattes, and then this fantastic celestial shade. I find that these mattes, they kind of, like all the rest of his eyeshadow palettes that I have, I can wear them without primer and they're fine. And this one starts to fade. And maybe it's because these shades are a little plummier. Maybe it's that these darker, more plummy tones are harder to make. But I feel like I find them kind of sitting in my crease just a little bit more than the other ones, where the other ones will last all day. These fade just a little bit, and then the texture of this celestial is pretty, but it's not as easy to apply as some of the others. And I think when I'm thinking about it, like, why is it that I don't reach for this more? Because this is like talking all of my love languages at this moment. It just didn't rise to the top the way I wanted it to, the way the rest of his palettes have really been great for me. But I feel like this is not a bad palette. This is one that if and when I take the time to put on eyeshadow primer, I don't get any fading. I don't get any creasing. It's beautiful, but you know me, lazy. 26 and 25 are ones that I really liked this spring, and I think my beef with these is that they came out in May. By the time they arrived at my house, it was almost summer. I would have loved these in early March, and I would have worn the heck out of these guys. So these are the other 2 spring petit fours from kind of like the Macaron collection from Viseart. So this is Lavande, and it's a really, and you would think, I told you I don't do purple. I loved this. I wore this so much this spring. I don't know what it was. It kind of captured me, and I think it's because we have kind of like these really softer shades. I use this one, of course, the least, or as eyeliner, but I really loved mixing these 2 and topping it with this really kind of ethereal, almost silvery shade. It's almost like icy. It's not quite silver. It's beautiful. I loved it, but this is definitely outside of my comfort zone, but it's a easy, colorful eye. I would have loved having both of these back like pre-Easter, you know, even like winter being over. Give it to me like March 10, March 15. So by the time that we have like it flips from winter to spring, I'm already in my spring colors. This one here is the one I wore the most. This is Pistache. I really like this. I still reach for this. And I know that come this spring, these 2 are going to be in rotation quite a lot. But I really do like these kind of more pastel-y quads. Number 24 is kind of a surprise for me because it looked rather ho-hum, rather boring Betty, rather like, okay. But I tried it. And I tried it because I hadn't really had much success with other products for the eyes from this brand, and this changed it. This is Beauty Pie's collab with James Malloy. This is the gold palette. He put out a silver and a rose gold. I can link for you in the description box the video where I try this on for the first time. This just became an easy everyday palette. Like this shade here was a one shadow look. This shade here, I would sometimes put in the crease and lightly along the lash line on days when I wanted a lightly sculpted look and a little mascara and nothing else. Fantastic. This looks like it's kind of like a warm, shiny shade. It's very gold because the minute, you know, it looks kind of buttery here, but the minute you put it on the eye, I mean, yeah, you see it there. It's very, very gold. It doesn't look gold in the pan that way. It's really rather a transformative shade. And it's one that if I'm not terribly careful, the older I get, the more I find that texture, especially on this inner portion, like from the corner to like the third of my lid. But I don't wear it really heavy, and I usually pick it up with a brush because I realized when I was picking it up with my finger and tap, it was a little much. But this was one that was really great. It is very much a Boring Betty every day, but she's nice, and the quality is really pretty. The only shade that kind of gives me that, be careful, is this little gold shade right here. 23 is one that I got because I loved the other one so much. So I know that this is not a new palette for 2022. I finally just bit the bullet and bought the Jungle Lights. And I bought it because I fell in love with Desert Lights at the beginning of this year. But this formula, like I could sing a song, I could write a sonnet, I could, you know, like on those old phones where you had to text like pressing the numbers to get the letters out, I would text somebody about the extreme beauty and relevance of this palette. Mainly because the formula is amazeballs. And this shade right here, look at that. I also really love the olive shade in here. These two are just delicious, and they have that same sort of, like, they call to me the same way that Sydney Grace pressed pigments do. They call to me the same way that the Give Me Glow pressed pigments do. They're just delicious. Now, these are not high maintenance. Told you the Cleona were a little high maintenance. Told you the Give Me Glow pressed pigments were a little high maintenance. These right here, these aren't. There is a little bit of fallout. If you're picking them up with your finger like this and you're pressing them on, you can see there's like a little bit of chunkiness going here. So if you pick up too much, you might have some fallout. But if you don't and you just wipe it on and press it in, you can get such a pretty look. But if you want this highly metallic, you're really gonna have to kind of, you know, dig your fingers in and do your eyes first. But once they're on, I don't find I have any fallout throughout the day. There are certain situations where, okay, let's say I get an eyelash in my eye, or I'm making dinner and I'm slicing an onion and then I start crying and I have to go and like dab my eyes. Some eyeshadows do not handle that. These do pretty good, even though they're kind of sparkly and a little bit textured. They also don't make my 48 next month eyelids look older and more textured. I don't know. These are the best shadows I've seen at the drugstore, and these are the shadows that if the packaging was different, I would pay $40 to $50 for these 6 shades. They're just that good. So if you see these and you've been wondering, they're worth it. Number 22 is the other palette of singles, but I'm kind of keeping them together. And these are recent. I just got these recently. They were part of a Black Friday sale from Give Me Glow. All right, so I picked up these 4 shades. I will link the video for you in the description bar where I try these on and where I swatch them for you. Look, it's like, they're just delicious. I can't stop. I know they're high maintenance. I know they're sparkle fallout. These are also the type of shadows that when I get them, you see where my crease is right here. If I want it just on the lid, but when my eye is open, that part of my lid touches above my crease, I end up with this above my crease. And okay, that happens. Some formulas do that. These do that. For me, other ones don't. I don't know what it is. It might be the emollient properties they put in here or whatever. I don't know. I haven't looked into the ingredient deck in these, but these are just so pretty and so shiny. Love. These have been kind of like a fun addition. Very high maintenance. Do my eyes first and then hope I'm not slicing onions or get an eyelash in my eye or have a, you know, a good cry or something because it's going to be a disaster later. but if I can keep my hands off my face, these are so much fun, and I get so many compliments when I wear these. Number 21 is one I fell in love with. I picked up during the Sephora sale, and it's this. So many people were raving about it, and I didn't get it when it first came out. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna wait because I don't know. And the truth is, this rose quartz palette, I have always struggled opening it, has really been fantastic. I love it. I especially love, and it's weird because I tell you I don't wear blues and purples, but these sorts of shades here, this really weird one that kind of looks like it's a gel with things suspended in it. My fingers are all ooey and gooey. It has kind of like a really pretty duochromy look to it. These are the sorts of shades that make this palette fantastic. Now, I tend to stick more to this side right here and incorporate these more spangly shadows and kind of skip these pinks, like these guys, and this one I don't use so much. I use everything on the bottom row. I definitely use this half of the palette, and I use the really sparkly shades from the other half, and I kind of skip the pinker. And the weird thing is it's called rose quartz, and I'm like, no rose. And it's because on me, they look between a rose and a lavender, and I haven't figured out what blush to wear with it. I don't know. I struggle, and every time I try and use kind of like these pinky tones in through here, it just doesn't work. So I just use the rest of it. But I really like this palette, and I'll tell you, the formula is so interesting that every time Huda releases another palette this size, I'm like, I don't know, maybe? I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but this really surprised me, and it's one of the few things that really kind of made me go, you know, maybe I shouldn't be sleeping on the Huda brand. Number 20 is a palette that's new to my collection, and here's where I tell you, I've used it for about a week and a half now, and I know I like it a lot, but maybe I haven't used it enough to really put it at this place, so just grain of salt with this one, but I really like it. It's the Persona Identity palette. This is a palette made specifically with people with brown eyes in mind. And I love that. I know that people with brown eyes can wear basically any eyeshadow color they want, but I really like the depth that we have in here. We go dark, but it's not black. We have some cool tones. We have warm tones, and then we have some really pretty sparkles. And the thing that's really interesting is I've been putting my brush in here quite a lot, but I don't find that there's a ton of fallout. I don't have a lot of powder kicking up. These are just like easy. These are the sort of shadows that I want to reach for like on a day when I gotta go. I have 15 minutes to sit at my, vanity and get my face on for work. I've been reaching for this. This has been great. This is also the sort of thing where I want just a little bit, not too much. I can either go cool or I can go warm with what I want in my crease and a light layer over the rest of the lid and boom, out the door. This is so, and I know there's a lot of palettes like this, but I like the formula. I like how it wears. It works well without an eyeshadow primer. I'm sure it'd do better with one, but I really have been enjoying this. Number 19 is one that I don't know that I would have picked up had it not been on sale. And I'm always telling myself what my mother tells me, if you wouldn't pay for it full price, don't buy it. And that works well with like clothes, kitchen gear, shoes, handbags. Like I really limit myself to like fragrance. If I wouldn't be willing to pay full price for it, I'm not going to get it just because it's on sale. But the minute makeup goes on sale, I don't know. Like the crazy comes out of me and I'm like, I need to have it. And that's what happened here, but this really rose to the top. This was a great palette. This is the Nabla Side by Side Nude palette. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I use this like almost a month and a half straight for work almost every day. Because I, again, could go cool with it. I could go like warm with it. I have a lot of these warmer shades here. It has, like you can see my fingers have been all in here. This one you can really tell, like the Identity palette, she's still new, but I don't feel like the mattes are as dusty in there and that you have as much like particles in the shimmers. They're a little bit more, they're shiny and they're pretty, but they're not like flaky the way that these guys are. You can see the flakes throughout here, the same way you would in a Pat McGrath palette. But this palette, every time I put it in rotation in my monthly makeup bin, oh my goodness, so much use out of this palette. If you're looking for one really beautiful, balanced nude palette, this is it, because it has your browns and your blacks. It has your grays. It has your cool kind of taupey-ish shades. It has lighter shades. It's got warm and cool sparkly shades, like this can do it all. Now for me, it's a little on the big side when it comes to how many pans there are, because 16 pans can be a lot, but I usually break it into, okay, I'm gonna use 4 shades today, which ones am I using? And I pick that way, and it's super easy. It also has a really nice mirror. I like the packaging, it feels really nice, and I think it looks really pretty too. This was a great purchase for me this year. Okay, at number 18, this comes in this high on the list, even though it's newer to my collection, because of ease of use and how like edited it is. And it's this little bento box from Kaja. This is the one in Orange Blossom. So these are the 3 shades here. I'm sorry, my fingers are not cleaner, but I love how easy it is. Snaps together. There's a little mirror in there. I find the mirror useless. But look at these shades. Look how pretty they are. Yes, I know they're all sparkly. I don't mind having sparkle in my crease. That doesn't bother me. But do you see how pretty these are? This right here is the perfect one and done shade. This one is great if you want just a light wash with your finger over your lid, a little mascara out the door, a little bit. I mean, they all can work that way. I tend not to reach for this kind of orangey shade on its own, but these two get a ton of use. I really like this. I think the formula works well, especially for someone like me who's lazy and doesn't use primer. I like it, but the fact that it's a trio, is like, mwah, thank you. The fact that it's a trio, that it's smaller, that it's edited, that it has really usable shades, it's really pretty. It kind of makes me want to get more of these, but I have to tell myself, like, I don't need 37 more eyeshadow palettes for next year. But yeah, this one is fantastic at number 18. So we're more than halfway through. We've already talked about 20 palettes. The next 17 are really ones that I loved. I loved and I enjoyed and I used so much. But with 37 palettes in a year, you know, I'm at plus all the singles that I got and the, you know, individual palettes that I create for myself throughout my single collection monthly. It's kind of hard to try everything, but this is one that I really enjoyed. It came out at the beginning of this year, and it's from my favorite eyeshadow brand. It's Sydney Grace's Be Mine palette. One thing that's fantastic about Sydney Grace is that they do a palette like this in 2 versions. This is the light version, and they'll have a deep version. And the deep version will have like some of these shades here, a little bit deeper for people with richer skin tones so that they don't appear ashy on their complexion. I love that they're so inclusive, but this is the light version. And I really like this. I used this middle row here a lot when I was kind of going through a pink eyeshadow phase. This top row doesn't ever get used as a cohesive look, although it looks beautiful that way. I usually will, you know, I need a light shade. Oh, I need a dark shade. And I'll kind of cherry pick where I want a little bit of gold in whatever look that I'm doing. And this bottom row here has some gorgeous, I especially love these 2 here as like a quick swipe across the eye, liner and mascara if I want something a little bit darker. Now I know that with my fair skin tone, these shades here are dark enough to be kind of like a moody one and done eyeshadow for me. I use this as liner. I kind of don't use this shade. I know, but this has been a great palette. Formula is amazing. This is a magnetic palette, so every one of these can be removed. I usually don't take these out like trying to pry them out. I'll just put something flat over the top, piece of paper, and then hover a magnet over it and the whole pan lifts right out. And so there will be times that I'm creating my own palette of individual colors for the month. I'll pull 1 or 2 from here and I'll create my palette, then I'll just put it back later. But this is great. Absolutely love this. Number 16 is kind of a new palette for me, but I fell in love with this, especially when I was editing the video when I was trying it on. And it's this. This is a new Petit-Four. It was a holiday Petit-Four from Viseart, and I've worn it quite a few times since then. This is the Violetta, and my heart belongs to this shade right here. Oh, she's so pretty. This kind of purpley duochrome. It can be difficult, but when you get it just right, oh, the blue, the lavender, it's so gorgeous. And I didn't think I was gonna like this shade. It's amazing. This is really pretty, and I have been reaching for it. This is another one that I like to do my face first because I feel like the duochrome in here is a little bit flaky and I get a lot of fallout, and I'm a little bit of a monster, and I really reach hard into this charcoal shade. That's really pretty, but I find that it as I'm blending it, pretty soon I have like charcoal everywhere. So I do my eyes first, but this is worth that extra effort on my part of rearranging how I do my face. This was a surprise for me, and I almost didn't get it because I was like, oh, I don't know about these. But the truth is, love this. Number 15 was a bonus palette during the Sydney Grace Christmas in July sale. This was their new California Coast palette. You can purchase it on its own, but look at this. This is just screaming easy, cool neutrals, right? And like their formula is everything that I ever want. Plus all of the mattes. Oh, I know, I keep doing that. These are so sparkly. These are so gorgeous. These are so beautiful. I love this palette. And I keep forgetting how good this palette is until I open it up and I see it. Because when I see it like this, there's quite a few palettes. I think there's 3 or 4 palettes that have kind of like this white-ish front, and they look like this, and as they're all lined up in my collection, I see the spine of it like this. But when I see like the inside, I'm like, oh yeah, she's gorgeous. This has been a great palette. Palette coming in at number 14 is a stunning palette. The formula is, it's literally my favorite new thing of the year, but this didn't place higher because I just haven't been reaching for it that much. And it's the Muse palette from Lisa Eldridge. I will cherry pick a pan or two out of here. Sometimes I'll pull this one in Taffeta Fan out, or I'll pull this one out here. This one is in Tomorrow's Party. They're gorgeous. The browns in here are fabulous. Everything about this is beautiful, and when I use it as a cohesive palette, makes a fabulous look. I just haven't reached for it a lot. I enjoy these shades most when I pull them out and rearrange them to create like a custom palette, but as these 6 shades, I love the looks that I get from this. I just thought I would have used it more by now. But the formula and the fact that it's, you know, I can push out the pans and rearrange them, it puts it right up there at the top because this is just lovely. Now, I will tell you, this is one of those eyeshadows, every single one from Lisa Eldridge, and you'll see them as we go along. These are the ones that I actually keep the eyeshadow primer on the desktop for. I know. Lisa uses a primer when she puts on her shadows, and I found that when I wear them without, because I end up with, you know, sometimes a little bit of sunscreen or an eye serum, skincare on my lids, it makes my lid like a little bit hydrated. These will last for about 6 hours, 7 hours, and then start to fade and break up, sometimes ending in the crease. I get all day wear with these, like from the minute I put them on until I wash them off. They look absolutely identical if I use this. So that's what this lives here for, because I love how there's no fallout. I figured out at first I had some fallout, you know, questions like Lisa mentioned, there's no fallout with these formulas. And I had a little bit of fallout in that first video, and then I figured it out. Love this formula. Like every single one of her mattes, her metallics, her luminous shades, her like luster, like all of them. But out of all the 5 new ones, this is the one that I use the least. Number 13 was a surprise. This was a gift with purchase, and I really wasn't expecting to love it, but I was like, well, I wanted to make a purchase that day anyway. And it's the Sydney Grace Where the Wild Things Grow. This really surprised me. I was like, I don't wear shades like this, but if you cover up this shade, I wear the rest of these, and I wear the heck out of them. They are so beautiful. This shade here in Elegant Candy it's a little too outside of my personal comfort zone, but the 2 I thought I wasn't going to use at all are these 2. And I love them. This one especially all over the lid, and this one kind of buffed close to the lash line. Stunning. I used a lot of this kind of warmer side of the palette. If you take out these last 3 shades, the rest of this, a lot for work this year. This was like a super easy default. And I was like, I don't know. I don't like really warm terracottas like that. It's a little too warm. It feels very, what is it? 2017, 2018. No, I loved it. Loved it, loved it. This palette was fantastic. Excellent quality. Amazing. Number 12 was the one palette from Lisa Eldridge that I was sure I was going to use the least. And it surprised me that it's the Muse, but this is Myth. I really like this palette. Now, Like the one from Muse, these two get the most use when I push out the pans and I reorganize them. But this shade right here, oh my goodness. This right here is called Faded Amethyst. It's ridiculous. And this one here in Mauve Decade, I use these as a duo for work all the time. Love these. I also like this dark shade here in Nocturama. I like the whole thing, but these three shades here get so much use. I'm not gonna, you see how gross my fingers are? I'm not gonna stick them in this light topper shade called Illusionism, but it has a beautiful almost blue and purple reflect. It has a little bit of pink to it. It is the most beautiful shade. Now, again, these two shades are not in my comfort zone, but I found myself reaching for this really beautiful kind of cranberry shade. It's called Victorian Trim. It's stunning. I really do like this way more than I thought I was going to. So at number 11, just missing my top 10, was this guy right here. This is the Amelie Petit-Four from Viseart. This is one of their holiday palettes. This is stunning, super easy to use. Like the metallics in here are just like, boop, so easy. Look how messy I am. I'm a disaster. But this is one of those super easy to use if you like warm neutrals and you want an edited palette. I really think this is great. I feel like it's a little bit similar to the Chocolat. If you have the Chocolat Petit-Four, there's a little bit more depth and variety in that one, but I really, really love this. I wish this shade was either a little darker or this shade was a little bit lighter. That's my only, like, could you tweak it just a little bit? But this is a super easy everyday, and I love, you know, I mentioned it before, the fact that you can pull these out and rearrange them, that you can, you know, move this to a different palette, put something else in there. If I wanted more depth, I could rearrange this to suit my specific needs. And I love the perfect little square ribbon pull packaging. Beautiful. Another warm neutrals palette that actually kind of getting me back into loving warm neutrals is this one. This is the Cinnabar from Lisa Eldridge. My favorite shades in here are this one and this one. And oddly enough, this dark one right here. This dark one right here is called Fired Earth. This is the most beautiful dark brown. This one you see has a lot more warmth to it, a little bit more richness, depth. This one is a little bit cooler. I really love this shade here in Fired Earth. I use it as liner. I use it to kind of deepen the outer corner. I use it on the lower lash line. It's stunning. And when you layer one of these metallic shades over the top, it just completely transforms it. But the mattes in here, the matte browns, are just the best. Love this. My number 9 palette is the first palette I bought from this brand in a couple of years. And it's the Nouveau palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. So here we go. Here's where I tell you, I don't use her, I don't see her, she's not there. Okay, that's how I make this palette work for me. And I know some people complain about the shade here. I actually really like it. It is kind of like a brown that has some sparkle in it. And I feel like if I use it judiciously and it doesn't get too out of control, it can get a little bit dark and kind of like blend, 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 because these have those same textures that maybe you're familiar with from Modern Renaissance or from Soft Glam, like those really soft blendable mattes and other formulas. I really love though the texture of the metallics in here. They're just delicious. They're so good, and my fingers are getting really gross, but look at that. So this has been a really fun palette for me to use this year, and one that every time I reach for it, I like it. And the reason I do is because being on the fairer end of the spectrum, you know, these guys here work really well for me. And then once I cross over into this half, they're not so dark that it looks like an instant smoky eye. That's why I love this. Number 8 was my favorite release from Viseart this year. Loved this so much. This is the Lilas Dew. Their Petit-Four, kind of like part 2 of the original Lilas palette. That I love that one, but I feel like that one can't suit most people. Like there are 2 shades in there that are so light, and me who wears the lightest, second lightest shade of foundation or concealer, I mean, they show up on me, but I'm very fair. And on most other people, they're gonna be way too light or would look ashy. This one here gives you a little bit more, and I don't know that this goes as deep as you would want it to, but this shade does give you more depth. I feel like these two shades here are so similar to two of the shades in the original Layla's palette, but I like that they pulled in something a little bit warmer. I like that we have this matte here. This is so much fun to wear, and it's not too sparkly. The formula of the shimmer shades in here and the duochromes don't really add a ton of texture to my lid. I feel like Viseart knows how to make eye makeup for someone who's not 22. These shadows just look really pretty on the lid, and I appreciate that these are made, and I don't know if they're intentionally made with a more mature lid in mind, but that's kind of how they feel. They perform really well. Number 7 is one that I finally bit the bullet and I picked up, because this came out last year. This came out in 2021, and it's the Soul La Plage. So this little Entendu palette, I was like, I don't wear orangey and yellow and blues. And you know what? The only shade I haven't worn in here is this one. I've worn everything else. This little blue shade here is stunning. It kind of goes blue, but sheer and icy in such a fun way. And over these more neutral and warm mattes, they're just gorgeous. I love these shades here. This one here, I like this soft butter yellow. Even this one here, like, I was like, what am I gonna, it's fun. This was a surprise fun, like I finally was like, okay, let's try it, it's on sale. Loved this. I try not to buy things on sale unless I would pay full price for them. And this is one that I sat on and I thought about and I thought about, and it kept coming back, and it was living in my mind rent free. I'm like, I don't know, that might be great. Those aren't shades I wear. Loved this. This Sydney Grace and Temptalia collab with Christine. This is so great. This is the light version of the On the Horizons palette. There is a deeper version of this. And I was like, I don't wear greens. I don't wear blues. This kind of cooler purple down here, I'm like, I don't wear that. Actually, it's really pretty. It's really pretty. I love this palette. Now, I do wear this, not as much as I would like to, but the greens, love the greens. And these two shades down here, I was kind of worried about those. They're fantastic. And I really love like these shades here, this one, this minty green paired with, they're just stunning. This shade here in Sakura Glow is the one that really surprised me. It's the shade that I've reached for the most. And I almost pulled it to go with like the sweater I'm wearing today. And I was like, no, I want to wear something else entirely different. But I love this. Part of it is because it reminds me of a shade. Do you remember the original Princess collab that ColourPop did with Disney, where they had a princess palette, and it was, oh, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 years ago? There was a shade in there called Poison Apple, and it was almost exactly like this. But after several years, it got dry, it got powdery, it lost its richness, it lost its ability to lay down really pretty color. And this does exactly what I wanted it to do, and it's amazing. This is a shade that I don't know that I ever would have liked if I hadn't tried that Poison Apple shade in the Disney Princess collab with ColourPop, but this palette has been a huge hit and a huge surprise, and I reach for it, and every time I do, it makes my heart happy. All right, we're in the top 5. And some of these may surprise you, some of them may not. At number 5, this is one that I didn't pick up during the Sephora sale because it debuted during the spring Sephora sale. I'm like, I don't know. And then I went in shortly after the sale, swatched it, and the minute I was swiping it on the back of my hand, I'm like, you're coming home with me today, and I don't care that I'm paying full price, and I missed an opportunity to save 20% because this Major Dimensions palette from Patrick Ta is just that good. I love it. I hear that there's a third one coming out. Now, I'm not interested in the first Major Dimensions palette because it's kind of warm. It's not that I don't like warm eyeshadows. I do, and I use them a lot. I feel like I have enough of them. And I also feel like it's not what's making my heart go pitter pat. But this, yes, because we do have, you know, some warmth in through here, obviously. And then on top of that, we have creams. And it's these guys. These guys here, oh, now the mattes are beautiful and fantastic. And my dirty fingers are going in here. And I don't know how accurate these swatches are going to be. But look at those. Aren't they? Especially this one here and this one here. I use these guys so much. They have that kind of pinky, but not too pink. They don't lean Barbie. They don't lean baby pink. They don't lean bubblegum. These are beautiful, and these guys, if I want warmth, I have it here. I really like these. The other thing that I enjoy doing is I enjoy using these cream shadows down here. Love that there's a little plastic window to keep them safe, but I use them as an eyeshadow base. So I will prime my eyes with these guys, you know, build a look with the rest. And sometimes I have been known to do this, put down matte to, you know what, I want a little something darker, and I'll reach into a cream and tap it in, and it doesn't mess up my eye look. I don't know how that is, but I can put the cream over the powder and build a really pretty look, or tap a little bit of the lighter cream in the center of the eye and then add some of that sparkly spangle to the top, and it holds together and is beautiful. This is a beautiful palette. Really love it. Number 4 is this one, the Desert Lights. Okay, this is the one that made me think that there were beautiful, luxurious, doesn't matter who makes it, but quality shadows at the drugstore. Please tell me what your best affordable eyeshadows are. I definitely want to try more affordable things, but this right here, this is everything that my shiny bird's loving heart wants. Yes, there is sparkle involved with these, but look at those shades. Look at those. They swatch like a dream. And what they look like on the hand is what you get on your eyeball. You do get that shine. Now, if like me, you over swirl and over swipe, you will have a little bit of fallout. But I find that if I don't go too hard, if I just kind of lightly press and then, you know, maybe tap off on the back of my hand and then pull and press, these don't create extra texture on my lids. They have beautiful, these are not high maintenance shadows. These are beautiful. These really feel very similar to the pressed pigments from Sydney Grace. You're getting a ton of product in here. I don't even hate the packaging. I like, you know, the clear lid for this and the Jungle Lights. I like these. Glad to have them in my collection. The palette at number 3 comes from a brand that I love. They make makeup I want to wear. They create shades that really call to me. There's an ease with them, and I find that the older I get, even though that there are shimmer and sparkle in a lot of their products, they just work really well for me. They're elegant, they're beautiful, they're not too much, they're just enough. It's M Cosmetics. This is the Divine Skies. This was one of the releases from the Masterpiece collection. It's the only one I got, but this is the lighter of the 2 eyeshadow palettes in Rodin. This is the 3rd one of these palettes that I have. I love that the packaging is like the same for everything, but the exterior color will tell you which one you're pulling for. So if you have Faded Clementine, it's orange. If you have Venetian Rose, it's kind of like a muted rosy pink. This one here is very much like a blanched almond shade I love. But this is exactly the sort of warm neutrals. Are not too orange. They're not too like copper, but it's not like cool. Do you see what I'm saying? I just love this. I'll tell you, the formulas in here are just stunning. And this shade right here, I use this one as a one shadow look all the time, or I'll pair these 2 together, or I'll pair these 2 together. I love the shadows in here. The formulas are beautiful. The mattes blend with no effort. The metallics do not add texture to my lid. They last really well without an eyeshadow primer. Even when I have skincare on my lids, I really, really love this eyeshadow formula. On top of that, I would think that sometimes a smaller mirror would make it impossible, but this is just the right size. I can see almost my entire face in here. I don't have to get this close, but if I'm holding it here, I can dip a brush in. It just works. I love this. I like the packaging. I like that you're getting a very decent sized pan in here, and these shades are the sort of warmer neutrals that I'm kind of going for, and they're less of the terracotta-y, orangey leaning. This is more my speed these days. Gorgeous. The last 2 eyeshadow palettes are both from Lisa Eldridge. And I know they just came out in November and I haven't had them that long, but it's basically almost all I've been reaching for. I've been trying to tell myself, try something else, but they're fantastic. All right, so number 2 is the one I'm wearing today. And I couldn't decide which one was number 1 because I use this one all the time. This is the Vega palette. I love this. Like this shade right here in Moon Swirl is one of my favorites. So gorgeous. And this one here, what's this one called? Supernova. They're just so pretty. Supernova is what I have in my inner corner. I have this all over the lid. I have Lamp Black as liner. I'm not actually wearing liner today. I have it actually pushed in between my lashes and right along the lash line. I have every single shade in here on my lids. This brown right here is probably my favorite matte brown that Lisa created because it is a little bit cool. This one, it's an easy everyday. I can make it really glam. I can really tone it down for work. It's fantastic. Now the number one palette, this is just a party in a palette. And every time I wear this, it brings my heart joy. This right here is the Sorcery palette. And it seems like a matte, like every time I open it up, I feel like little angels sing, like there's magical little poofs coming out of this. I love this. Even this blue, I don't know. And I think that if Lisa can get me to wear purple and Lisa can get me to wear blue, there is magic happening. And I don't know what it is, but I actually have been wearing this. Who am I? I don't know. Because other blues and other palettes, they come, yeah, it's not for me. Like the ones from Viseart earlier on. This one's beautiful. But my favorite shade right here is this one. This one's Mercurial. It is the most beautiful, shifty. It looks kind of gold here. It has a little bit of lavender to it. Sometimes in the pan, it has a bit of a green flash. It is the most beautiful. And the name Mercurial is perfect because it's so shifty. It's so changeable. It's so fantastic. But I was like, I don't wear greens. Yes, I do. And this one right here, oh, I mean, seriously, this is magical. I love this palette. Every time I pull this out, my heart skips a beat. Every time I open this up, every time I stick my finger in there and swatch them, this is what my makeup dreams were made of. And when I saw the palette, when she debuted it, I was like, that's pretty, but that's not for me. And then I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna get them all and we're gonna try. Oh, how I love this palette. And yes, I do sometimes wear this for work. And yes, sometimes I do have too many spangles on my eyes and I don't care at all. Love this so, so much. Favorite palette of the year. I would love to know, are you an eyeshadow person? Do you love eyeshadow? What did you pick up this year? Even if it wasn't released, what was new to your collection that really stood out? Or the ones that you were like, wah, wah, so sad. Never again. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so, so much for watching. I will leave links to other videos mentioned in the description box down below. Have an incredible day and I will see you again soon.